all your data rights on my
Ethan,
personal
people
YouTube
get
account.
food. Not me, not him.
And that's assuming that Zoom
Amazing.
did, and, and it's assuming Zoom didn't delete all my YouTube videos in the process.
Yeah, they will now.
They will now. No one can know.
No.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to the Craft Podcast, where Michael and I interview experts of various fields to learn about their discipline and how they strive towards mastery. We love talking to people who are passionate enough to master something. And we've each been asking curious questions of these craftspeople our entire lives. But we want to share that with others. The interviews we hold are to the point, informative, and fun. You will love all of them. So please subscribe to the channel and like the video if you love our interviews. Let's get right into it. Michael, who's with us today?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Today we are joined by Amelia Player, an artist, AI researcher, and a tech enthusiast. With a background in motion graphics, graphic designs, 2D and 3D modeling, and also deep into the gaming industry, she co-founded Promuse with her brother Alex. Promuse is a teaching platform that bridges the gap between theoretical knowledge of AI and its practical through step-by-step tutorials, best practices for both beginners and experienced users in the AI industry. And latest news and opinions on this industry as well. So with the mission to democratize the AI education, Amelia is passionate about empowering individuals and organizations to harness the potential of AI through hands-on learning and experiential training. So Amelia is a master in her disciplines, and we are honored to have her on the show. Amelia, welcome to the Craft Podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me. And don't tell me ChatGPT wrote that.
No, that was all old school, handwritten.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you for an amazing introduction, and yeah, you nailed it. So yeah.
But before, AI, you weren't doing AI related things forever. You started out your career in gaming. We did some LinkedIn stalking and found, all these gushing reviews about you from people you've worked with in the past and game companies when you were doing game art. And one of the things that stuck out to me is that you didn't just stick with one area of game art, but you learned all the different subdisciplines from, concepting and many others that, maybe you can introduce us to, and then, tell us how kind of your journey to mastering that field.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, well, I hope my journey will inspire others who may not come from a normal background and might not have the privilege of going to university and higher education, because none of that I had. And everything I've learned and every job I've ever been able to get was through passion, and showing that passion and also backing it up with focus and determination, and spending a lot of time researching what I was learning and listening to people who know more than me, and knowing when to be quiet and knowing when to speak. It's a fine balance as well. So my CV is just absolutely everywhere. I actually started my journey not knowing what I wanted to do at school. I was awful at school. My GCSEs probably spelt a swear word. It was in the UK, you get an F and a U and a C. And it was bad. And I came out of school education feeling so dejected. And my grammar and spelling is as bad as it is when I was at school. It hasn't improved one bit. But I knew I had to get a skill to survive in this world. And I knew that from a young age. And I actually went to college and did beauty therapy. But in fact, I didn't have enough GCSEs to be allowed to do beauty therapy. So I ended up doing hair for a year to get myself into a beauty therapy course. I don't understand the logic of that. And that was my first insight into education, that the processes, it just didn't seem to make any sense to me. But I knew I had to get skills, so I did beauty therapy. But when I was doing that beauty therapy course, I discovered I had free access to a library and computers. And I came from, I'll talk about it in a bit later, I grew up with computer games. I was the ultimate person who played a lot of computer games. So I was obviously attracted to the computers and the internet in the library. I'm quite old as well, nearly 40. And well, not that old, but in the grand scheme of things, middle age, I would say. And, you know, there was a lot of books as well about 3D and graphic design. And so when I was doing this beauty therapy course, I sort of fell in love with graphic design and 3D. And I finished the course and I didn't do anything beauty therapy related. In fact, I wanted to do marketing for a company. And I kind of just winged it into the business by just saying, yeah, I can do that, of course I can. And I ended up almost being graphic designer within the company, because I just say, let me do it for you. And back then as well, it was easier to get free software, like Photoshop, 3D Studio Max. You could have access to it all if you knew where to look. I don't promote that whatsoever, but it's very different nowadays, where you have to have serial keys, and those, you know, it wasn't easier to hijack those as it used to be back in the days. So I had access to absolutely every graphical application in this marketing job, and I learned everything. And I realized I could learn software very quickly. And I didn't learn very well in the classroom, but I did learn by teaching myself and working out problems. So if I needed to find a solution, if somebody said, could you make this video for us to do, I would do it. And I would use 3D Studio Max, I would use Photoshop, I'd use PaintShop Pro, which was an old program back in the day. And I would learn this software, basically being paid for my education in 3D. And the company loved it because they loved what I did for them. Right. But also I felt this was such a better way of learning, because it's actual practical use of software. I signed myself up at the time. I used all my money to do an ICT course. I think it was at £2,000. It was a lot of money back then for my job. And I went into this course and it was full of people who just didn't want to learn. And the teacher said, well, you need to use Access to build this database in order to do that. It just, it was so, you have to use this software and learn this. And I was like, well, wouldn't it be better if you use this? And it was like, no, that's not part of the syllabus. And again, that was another taste of, I just don't belong in that formal setting. So I actually wasted all my money. And I think it probably about 2 weeks into doing that course that I dropped out. So, yeah, so not great. But I realized I could learn more actually working and putting a practical use to the software. And then after that job, I could have stayed and moved to London, but I met my husband now, who worked there as well, and he lived in the middle of the lands, the Midlands in the UK. And so I had to move up here, and I thought, well, it's a good opportunity to try and get a job with what I've learned. With no experience at all, I applied for a 3D architectural company and just was honest with him. I said, look, I love doing 3D and I can learn it very quickly, and I have, and this is my portfolio, this is what I've got. Give me a chance, an opportunity, and hopefully, you know, you'll get rewarded. You can pay me less than everybody else, doesn't matter. Just give me a chance. And I was very lucky. And to any viewers as well, knock on doors, always knock on people's doors, because even if they say no, go to the next door and be honest about what you know, and be open to so many. You will get so many opportunities that way. And unfortunately, I lost my job due to the recession within the housing market, because it was based on housing, but I had enough time in that business to learn 3D really well, photorealistic 3D, and from the guys around me in that team as well. You know, everyone taught a little bit here and a little bit there. Then I started up my first of many businesses after that, because I knew I wanted to carry on with 3D, but the job market was just completely dead at the moment at that time. And I started doing 3D visualization for businesses, and just carried on just freelancing until I found this job for a game artist in a city that was near me. And again, I applied for it. I was very honest. I said, I don't know anything about the game industry. I have no background experience, but I am so willing to learn. And I stayed there for 6 years and became a lead artist. And everyone used to say, well, what university, where did you go? What did you learn? And I'd say, I didn't. I learned it here. I learned it from the people around me. I learned it from Google, YouTube. I learned it. I didn't learn anything in an educational environment. It just wasn't suitable for me, and how my mind processes information. And I think there's a lot of people like that in the world who feel lost because they haven't found their thing, or might have thought they found their thing and then realized it wasn't. And I think taking a word from Silicon Valley, I love, when they say pivot, they have to pivot the whole business, everything they've done up to that point, they have to change. And it's knowing how often to do that and when to do it. Don't do it too often. Be consistent, but know when you've come to the dead end to something that's not going to fulfill your mind and your spirit. And 3D has always run through from the beginning, finding it in the library and learning the software. It's been there, always there. And so I loved my job at the games company, like making 3D assets, working with developers, working with other artists. It was such a fantastic job. And I actually started another role as a lead artist in another game studio. And unfortunately, my dad passed away quite suddenly. And he ran an online software business. And his last words were pretty much, can you look after this? So I was just like, wow. Why did you say that? Now I'm going to have to. I did. The directors of that business were so kind to me. They let me bring my laptop in and run his software business as well as do my job. But it got to the point where it's just too much. I had to make a decision, and they were just so good to me. And I just said, I just can't. I've got to, take this on, because I feel so that because he's asked me to do that, I have to. And one thing I realized, it wasn't my passion, and it was his passion. And so I automated that business, his software business, as much as I could. And also tried to obviously earn money out of it, which I did and still am, which is great. And it has been essential to what I've created now with my brother. So it's funded it essentially and funds my living. It's not much, but it keeps it all going. So I still run the software business. And I did help my dad when he was build that business. So I knew it inside out, but I took it over, automated it. It could have been far better than it was if I was passionate about it, but I realized that I really wasn't. So essentially using it as a bit of like a cash cow, but keeping it afloat, keeping the customers happy as well. So the last 5 years, it's been juggling that. And then I had room to start another business. And that's where the Creative Mum started, which was creating stock images. And selling them. I again wanted another automated business, and I realized I could just draw and license the artwork, and then draw again and license that artwork. And so that built pretty quickly and did really well.
Well, if we could linger on gaming a little bit longer, well, I mean, first of all, like, there's no way, I guess, a LinkedIn profile could do much justice to the story you just told, because it's just amazing, and it shows so much tenacity that, well, LinkedIn's made for showing off what brands you associate yourself with, not passion, showing real passion and tenacity for discipline. So I'm really, really glad you shared that story, and I hope you write memoirs someday, because I'm sure there's a million stories within that.
I actually left home at 15, so I put myself.
Man.
I was sleeping on my friend's sofa. When I did the beauty therapy course and ICT, I actually didn't have a home at that time. My parents had divorced, and you go through those teenage years, and my brother did it too. Not just me. And there's a lot more in depth there. There's a lot of going on, and that's why I want to share that with anybody watching this, that I wasn't given any opportunity, and I had to work for everything, and it has been tough. It has not been easy at all, but I've always been, okay, I just need to get enough money. I don't need to be rich. I just need to get enough money to keep doing what I want to keep doing. So yeah.
I mean, that's really inspirational. And you mentioned your passion for games a bit, and I guess before we kind of go deeper into just kind of the pure AI art, how do you see AI art like impacting games? Because that's something that if you ask me, like, things could start happening very quickly. But since you're much closer to the game, like how game art pipelines actually work, you kind of know more about that world.
Yeah, so every gaming studio is different, and it depends on, looking at big gaming studios will have different types of artists for different types of jobs. So you've got a concept artist, and they will be given information of what design that the customer or the client or the game studio is working with. So they'll get an outline brief of what they're looking for, and they will come up with concepts and designs to fit to that brief. And those will then have to be translated. Let's say we're talking about a 3D pipeline here, to a 3D modeling artist, who will then have to take those concept drawings and create the 3D version of that. And that probably sounds quite simple to do, and it's quite technical to take something that's two-dimensional and turn it into 3D. So the 2D artist usually uses something called a turnaround sheet to concept, which means, let's say we're talking about a person who's a game character. You would have a 2D image of that person at every angle. So when the 3D artist comes to conceptualize or make a 3D model of that, they have a 360-degree view to put into their viewport to create the model or the mesh from. And then once the 3D artist has finished, and they might be the one doing the materials as well, creating the clothes and the style and the feel of the character, that will be then moved on to an animator who will rig the character as well, and get that ready and put the weights onto the character, which will then make the skeleton join onto the mesh. And they will have the job of then creating the animations, either for if it's going to be a video, or if it's going to then move on to a developer to put it into Unity or Unreal as well, just to make sure everything is suitable for them. And then you've got, if it's going to be used for a scene, like a video scene, you've then got somebody who's going to composite it all together. So they'll take, it's a huge production pipeline. So all these artists have to communicate with each other and do their job so well that they can then pass that on in a nice, neat package that works for the next person. And it can get quite a complex process, especially if you're not doing a humanoid character. If you're doing like a quadruped, it can get quite difficult. And now AI isn't replacing these artists, but what it will do is make some of those processes a lot easier. So from the concept stage, your AI isn't there where you can say, you can't design you something specific. You get what you're given. So midjourney or stable diffusion will chuck you something out. You're essentially just given something, whereas an artist will always be able to come up with a specific idea. So if the sales guy says, well, this is what the client wants, an artist can be more specific about that. AI can't currently. But that's not to say that won't happen. And so that's the concept artist. And then you've got the person making the mesh. Now, essentially, that will probably be done by AI. And I've seen some background work and development of companies that are doing 2D images to 3D mesh. Now, the problem they're having is getting it topologized, which means getting the mesh clean and neat for the person to rig it and skin it and bone it. But again, if there's something that is, the nuance isn't there with AI. So if it was a particular character and needed to be custom built, AI just can't achieve what a human can. So that's why I believe their jobs essentially are safe. But you'll see 2D to 3D very soon, but it just wouldn't work in a game studio because of the bespokeness of that character or the design they need. And I say yet, I don't know what's going to happen. But the same with the skeleton. I mean, people have been trying to automate that pipeline for such a long time now with new plugins and rigging characters as well. That's getting more automated. But in the game studio, they potentially wouldn't use Blender. They would use something like Maya as well. Again, it's more in depth and more bespoke as well. So I just don't see these guys being replaced at all. I can see plugins coming in to help those processes. Right. With unwrapping and rigging, but you'll still need somebody who has that skill set to know, oh, why is its arm hanging on backwards? What do we need to do to change that? Why am I not getting the motion or animation that I want out of this scene? It won't be, oh, just click a button. Somebody in the sales team clicks a button and it generates a 3D avatar that does absolutely everything they want to do. Because if that happens, then everything becomes vanilla. Everything becomes the same. And it's almost, I can read something online and know that's been created by ChatGPT. Just there's no soul behind it. And when it does try to create a soul, it's just it doesn't work. So I think in the game industry, you always need an artist there. And I know I've had a lot of backlash on my videos saying, oh, great, well, I've spent 6 years learning how to use 3D software. Now that's down the drain. It's not down the drain at all. You still will need that experience. When the magic stops, you will need to know what to do.
Right.
So, yeah, and it's the things like I'm doing now. So at the moment, starting doing my next tutorial will be on how to use stable diffusion images and project that onto a 3D character. Now that's good for someone to do in their bedroom and do for fun, but that's not studio. That's not for a game. You know, that wouldn't work in the pipe. Someone says, well, we don't like her face. Can you change that? And you go, well, I don't know how to use Photoshop. You know, I can't do stable diffusion. Doesn't allow me. You do need those skills still there. So I personally, and that's my personal feeling, I feel artists are safe at the moment.
Yeah, right. And it sounds like at each step of the way, there's still a lot of need for like human eyes, human common sense, human soul, and people can be helped and things can be sped up through applying these tools, but it's not going to be. It's like you said, a salesperson clicks a button and a game is made. People
have that great fear that's going to happen, and it's not. It might be that there'll be a tool developed for someone to do that for a TV channel and put themselves into a game and make it into a movie. Yeah, possibly, but the pipeline just wouldn't work there professionally, where you've got to have a good story and you've got to have people that reflect that story, and it all has to align.
Right.
And there's so many multiple processes going on. And then when, you know, the creative director says, actually, scrap that character, we need to change something on it. Well, you can't go backwards with AI. You can only go forward. So what do you do at that point? You go, well, the button doesn't go backwards, and it's now rigged and skinned. So you need good people to be able to, good knowledgeable people to be able to interact with that character and create it. And it really is communication with a good team that makes good assets for games. It's never one person, it's always a team of people. And the same with the developers. The developers have to work and communicate with the artists on how they're going to integrate it into their game, and how efficiently they need the textures, and how you know, the mesh has to be very clean for them to use as well, and code.
That's really eye-opening, because I knew nothing about game, like the game studio. I know something, but like not in this detail. Yeah. Thanks for introducing that. Yeah.
On my channel, I use Blender. Some game studios, like I said, they're all very different, and it depends on their budgets, the size. Some have artists who are called generalists that do everything. So it might be 1 or 2 people in a game studio, and they literally are a 3D artist and a 2D artist and an animator. So that would be a lot smaller. You see that on Steam, where there's like lots of people who are enthusiastic come together and form a sort of indie studio. And you find there are artists that wear many hats. So they're not just an animator, they're not just a concept artist, they have to do a bit of everything. So it does really depend on the studio, how much they can afford. And I think AI will help those smaller studios get better results. So the generalist would then use better and easier workflows to get games out quicker.
Right.
So I don't think yet there is anything to be concerned about, but again, that's my personal opinion. And I know other people are appalled at art being created by AI, but I think, you know, how many digital images have you seen from AI now? You're probably not in awe by many of them, because there's nothing behind it. There's no concept, no story. It's just generated by AI and machine learning to make it fit the golden ratio, to fit color profiles that work for the eye. And we talked a bit earlier about, before the stream went on, about, let's say, midjourney. It's all machine learning. So when you click and upscale an image, you know, I'm not saying midjourney does that, but machine learning part of it is that information's all being gathered to what makes a good image. So if you've got 8 million people doing that, they have all that data to produce a better looking image, all that data set to create you what looks nice. And that's why a lot of these images end up looking the same type of woman, because that's what is pleasing to the human eye. And, you know, you don't really get many disfigured people, because people are just saying, I want that to look a good image, whether that's morally right or not. And that's why within these things, the creativity isn't there to produce something new and ground shattering. There's a lot, you know, the AI artists that I've seen do really well just have a consistent theme. So there's lots that I follow on Instagram that they'll consistently do something very well. But other than that, I haven't seen anything that I've gone, wow, that's really amazing.
Right. Yeah. So like, so what inspired you to start exploring those, you know, generative AI stuff, and also starting like prompt muse, and like, what's the motivation behind it? Can you explain a little bit of that?
It was actually my brother, who isn't here because he's camera shy, but he does exist, everybody. He writes a lot of the articles on the website, and we talk, you know, about ChatGPT a lot as well, because that's his thing. And So I did a business before this, creating stock images for illustrations. And I started going down the digital route. So I'd create these images to sell and license. And my brother phoned me up and he said, "You need to look at this. This is going to destroy your business." No, we were getting somewhere. I was like, "Don't do it." He said, "Look at this." It was darling, something like that. It was one of the first versions, and it wasn't very good at all. It was like you could bake sushi with arms or something, and I was like, my mind is blown. But I couldn't actually do anything. So I started looking at it, and I actually looked at it from the point of view, hold on, I could generate a lot of images here, and if I can get them into a consistent set, then I could sell these. But unfortunately, because of the terms and conditions were so murky with AI images, unfortunately, I could never work out a way to commercialize it, because I would never own those images to license them out, and it could come back. So I was just like, oh, cool, that's really interesting. And then Midjourney came out, and I just had my finger on the pulse and trying to integrate it somewhere, either in the software business or in the art business. And I did what I always do. I just learn everything I can at that time. And my brother was as well. We were like really giddy, ringing each other up saying, "Oh, look what I found. This is amazing." So I said to him, "I've got this name. If we could put a website together, if you could do it for me, I think we could put some information out there and sort of become a central hub for information." We didn't think it would go anywhere. We just thought, well, we'll just share our passions with people on Reddit and on Discord, and then have the website just to have all the knowledge and see where it goes as well, and have almost a history of where it started, and we could see the articles and how everything grew and sparked. We knew AI was going to be absolutely big, or machine learning as well. And so yeah, that's how it kind of happened. He actually does SEO. He's self-employed, so that's what I asked him to build me a website, and I was just like, you need to join. Need somebody to talk to about this. So you're the only person I can talk to about this, about them going glass-eyed. So that's why it happened. And the name Prompt Muse as well, I actually just went and I was looking for something, prompt something, and I went through all the trademark names, and Muse was free, and I was like, okay, what the hell that? And so that's how it came about. It wasn't anything. Unfortunately, there's no magical tale about the name or anything. So yeah, I had to just ensure that I could get the trademark, could get the website, and could get every single name under the sun, and that was the one that had them free. And it just worked out really well. I was quite lucky with that. And it's just a side project that, we wanted to share the information. And so I just put a few YouTube videos out of me using Midjourney, probably pretty badly. And people liked it because it was non-technical, and they could see that I was learning as well. And I tried to keep it quite slow pace as well, because I've watched so many YouTube videos. I feel like I feel like sometimes YouTube is a bit like the Matrix. If you want to learn something, you can learn watching them. And I'm used to watching like 2-hour sort of YouTube videos back in the day of somebody creating something in 3D Studio Max and just going, oh, I wish I could see where their mouse is, or there's certain elements. So I try and incorporate all those things that I wish I saw in those tutorial videos into mine. So zoom very close into a window rather than seeing it from afar, because I realise people are probably watching from their mobile as well. So there's just little nuances like that I try and help viewers with. I'm not there yet. I don't think I'm as, sometimes it's a time constraint just to get a video out. And also just to make sure that the videos are not just advertisements for products, because the channel started doing well, I got a lot of companies contacting me saying, would you be able to do this for money? And I was like, oh, that money would be so nice, but not in line with what we wanted the channel to be. We wanted it to be honest. So if something stopped working, if a computer stopped working, we'd show it. If you know, if we felt Stable Diffusion 2.1 wasn't very good, we're not going to show it. Not that, you know, Stable Diffusion open source, but, you know, they won't approach us. But companies that have these apps, there's so many apps that have AI, and they were like, well, we'll pay you money to show us on the channel. And it was just turning down those offers and just going, no, we've got to stick to showing what's new and how we can integrate that, so somebody could, you know, make a book for their kid or be able to learn Stable Diffusion without being put off by it. But I also understand that I have those issues as well. When they run out of RAM, I run out of RAM as well.
Right.
Or if Python, you know, PyTorch doesn't install, that happens to me as well sometimes too. But it's understanding, it's, you know, breaking it down so it doesn't go over people's heads. And it's, yeah, that's essentially what it is. And me and my brother absolutely love it, and we love how quickly it's evolving. It keeps our attention, definitely keeps our attention, that how quickly it's coming on. The good sides of machine learning and AI, and the bad sides of it as well. So yeah, it's exciting. And I've had a few death threats as well along the way.
Oh man.
But yeah. But yeah, they're easily traceable where other people live, so it's not, I'm not that worried. If they're local, I'm like, oh my god, they are going to get it. Just like, okay. But yeah, that's what's interesting. It's like, I'm just showing as a user how to use the software. I am not OpenAI, I'm not Stable Diffusion, I'm not these people. I just, you know, showing the products. I'm not endorsing them either. So.
Yeah, that's very nice. So are there like any specific sources you follow or practices like you keep to, you know, to keep you stay cutting edge and also be in the front of the, you know, the whole AI development business is so fast, its pace like of change is so fast, and how do you keep, you know, stay ahead?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because a lot of the development that is happening is open source, so it's a lot of developers that are working independently, so it's trying to find their work, and that's via Twitter, through Reddit, through Discord. I am a member of so many communities at the moment, and I don't actually watch TV. I just like just on these communities watching what's going on and seeing anything new. And developers can sometimes be very humble about something they've created. And I'm like, what the heck have you created? That's amazing. I need to show that. And and they always say, oh, no, just not very, I haven't finished it yet. I'm like, oh, but can I show that? Because that's going to change. Like, some people, you know, they can be able to create amazing things with what you've created. And so many of them are open to using essentially what they have created, their workflows. So I just reach out and email, and that's how I find these guys as well. So it takes a lot of looking, and I've spent a week trying to get something to work in Blender, and I was to show it on the YouTube channel, but I realized it was just to integrate it into a normal person's PC. It took a whole day to install. It took about 20, 30 gigabytes of RAM. And I just scrapped the whole thing in the end, because I thought it's not there yet. The guy's, he's got something good, but it's just too slow for just a normal person with a normal computer who just wants to be able to create something quick. So there's a lot of this background work, and sometimes there can be a large gap between videos. And it is that sometimes I find something and I'm like, oh my God, that's absolutely amazing. But then when I actually get it working, and like, it's not working as well as I thought it would, or it crashes too often as well. So there's a lot of research that goes on as well. So the channel isn't just, oh, look at this new AI software sort of thing, isn't this fantastic? It's sort of, I really get into the bones of how it works, and if anybody can run it on their computer, because I've got 4 GB of VRAM on my PC. It's not a good PC, and it sounds like somebody said the other day that they could hear it in the background of the video because it's about to die. But I like to keep that because I like to think, well, this is probably what everybody else has got as well. I can't afford a £2,000 computer, and nor can a lot of people. So I wanted to make videos that are suitable for the masses, not just the people who have got the money to buy powerful computers or rent good computers. And I do get a lot of comments when I run things on Google Colab, and they're like, why don't you just run it on a better powerful PC? And I'm like, that's the whole point. It's because you can't access this through a PC like mine. So I try and make it for all, really.
Cool.
So I feel like there's I mean, that's I love hearing like the nuts and bolts of how the videos come together, because I've just, I've seen a bunch of the finished products, but like knowing, a bit about what goes on behind the scenes, just, it's kind of powerful to see how it all comes together. And it's just the beginning, right? You guys started, I think you said like 3 months ago, something like that.
It's just completely, so many people were interested in it. And I think it's because they can see that we're just honestly just trying to show workflows that work. And my brother does a lot of workflows with ChatGPT and Excel and Google Sheets as well, that have really helped a lot of people. And we do get a lot of emails. And sorry if we haven't replied to your email. Our day goes very quick if we sit down and respond to all our emails. But there's a lot of people that then send in donations, which help massively, because they've said this has helped them at work, this has helped them to get a job, this has helped them be able to do something, write a book with their child and things like that. And that's really inspiring, and that really, really helps us to continue to try and develop new techniques and understand. We read every single comment, the good, the bad, the ugly, because we know what people want from this. So a lot of people want to tell a story. Everybody's got a story to tell, whether it's about their life or if it's a fiction, they all want to tell a story. And I think AI will allow them to create a book. And it's not even for monetary purposes a lot of the time. People just want to be creative, not have to learn a 3D program or a package. They want to just be able to create a consistent image and write text to it. But from there, use it creatively, not just write ChatGPT, write me a story, and then create images from that. They want to put their own spin on it as well. So we're heading towards that very quickly for people. And we live in such a, I say it's great to live in this time of technology, but realistically, we do live in a horrible time. There's a lot of poverty, there's wars everywhere, and this just takes away, you can focus your energy and your mind into creating something beautiful, and that's a good thing.
For sure. And I think one of the things that that definitely shows in the videos, and the videos are like well done, really understandable, even from the very beginning of Prompt Muse. But I'm sure like this, as us Americans say, wasn't your first rodeo. You in our research, we came across the Creative Mom. So you had done tutorials before. Like how did you how do you build up the skills of doing good tutorials? Because it's not just something that it looks natural to a viewer, but I'm sure like that learning process took a lot.
So I think it was the last video I did, and I cut it out, and I only mentioned it in the comments that the video just looks like it's done in one smooth within an hour or something. And last video I did, I actually had a complete computer meltdown. It blue screened halfway through.
Oh, no.
and I thought I lost my whole hard drive, but I got it back. But there was a lot that went on behind the scenes in the video that gets cut out, obviously. And there's a lot of moments I go, do you know what? Nobody wants to see this. What are you doing? And you're going to bore the internet. Or worse than that, you're just going to get your view, that 10 refresh review, views on your video. And that's another thing as well. It just feels like sometimes am I wasting my time and everybody else's time by producing this video? So there's a lot of self-talk, like you've got to get on it, you've got to get it out into making the video. So it's not as streamlined as it is. And you found the Creative Month video. Unfortunately, I had to lock down so much because of the death threats. I was told by the police actually, because it got quite bad, that I had to lock down all my other social media platforms. And my face is out there now, but there are some crazy people on the internet, and I was aware going into this that that could be an issue. So if anybody of you tried to find some of that, they might not find much. I don't know. I probably didn't do a very good job at hiding anything, but I had to take everything down. But there might still be some videos out there, but I essentially was making videos on how to take the artwork that you could buy from my website and create it into mugs and bags. And that was my start for YouTube. And I was terrible. I probably still am terrible on YouTube, but you just fail your way to success. And I'm not at success at all, but I'm just failing my way there slowly. And I can't remember the saying, so forgive me, I'm going to say it wrong, but perfection is the enemy of done. So you want it to be perfect, but it never will be. And if you try to aim for perfection, you won't get there. So sometimes you just have to suck it up and just go, well, this is the best I can do. Tomorrow I'll do better. And I feel like 3 weeks trying to work on the next video because things that I've scrapped or work processes I've gone, it's too complicated, or I've just gone, actually, I've gone down a rabbit hole here, it's not working. And I just have to either go with it and stick with it, or just like I have done, to scrap the whole thing and start again. And that's 3 weeks of work, that no one sees. Nobody sees the late nights trying to install or get things working, or I've got it working once and they come to record and it's not working at all. There's so and there's so much research that my brother and I do. It takes over our life, and we go into quite a lot of expos as well, machine learning expos as well, just to see what other people are doing. And you learn from other people all the time. And again, with the developers that I talk to, the amount I've learned from these guys is unreal. The amount of knowledge that they have in that section is crazy. It's inspiring as well, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and if I can bring it full circle, it sounds like the type of stuff that the work that you're doing is probably helping, thousands or eventually millions of Amelias who don't like their school experience, but they can find content like this, and it'll help them get, skills so that they can create the kind of art that they're passionate about. Is that something that's in the back of your mind? Because we didn't make that connection, but I feel like, having spoken with you more now, that that seems like a really a really heartfelt motivation to be creating this type of content.
Yeah, so there's no paywall at all. There's no patron. I don't expect people to give me money whatsoever. I have a buy me a coffee fund, but I don't want people to spend money they don't have. I want people to learn. And I was, there was times in my life where I just didn't have the finances to learn or the opportunity, but I used the resources that I had to try and get to where I wanted to be at the time. And YouTube was a big part of that. Being able to access YouTube and learn how to use a 3D software and package from people who know, I just was amazed. And this was before Patreon came around. This is before people started putting, oh, well, to see the rest of the video, you need to sign up to this. And people need to make a living, and I understand that's why they do that. You can't just continuously do something for free. No one's subsidizing you. But you know, I do feel like the reward will come somewhere. You know, if you do something good and have the right intentions, something will come along. I mean, that's my whole life has been like, okay, something better, it will happen if I just consistent with it, and continue. And it feels right. Everything feels right about this. And I didn't mention, but when I was doing Creative Mum, and a big pivotal moment actually happened when I got COVID, and I got very sick, very sick. And in fact, I was in resus and nearly died.
Wow.
It was really bad. Yeah. They brought me back, and I just felt like I had another opportunity to do something. My immune system completely failed. I was a lot slimmer than I was now because I was put on special drinks because I became allergic to everything. And it's something a lot of people are dealing with now, and it's not in the media for multiple reasons. And I couldn't work during that period. I couldn't do anything. I lay there and just watch Netflix in bed because I was so ill. I was having allergic reactions to everything, every food, caffeine. I'm a caffeine junkie now. I'm back. I'm a lot better. I was going to allergy specialists, and they were like, it's your white blood cells have been affected by COVID. You know, there's nothing we can do. You just have to take all these tablets to get through your days, which they were, it was antihistamine tablets. So they knock you out. They absolutely knock you out. So I went from being like this to being bedbound for a long time. And I was like, I can't continue Creative Mum and do all this artwork and stuff as I was doing before because I was so poorly. And that's why my brother was like, have you seen AI? Could you integrate that maybe? And, you know, that's when I was like, yes, that would be a great way to create artwork. So that's how it all came about. So I had this major blip, and that was last June. That wasn't long ago. And and I thought, and it's funny, life is like that because I'm healthy, you know, I'm youngish, and I never thought COVID would affect me. Never in a million years. I was just like, oh, yeah, that's what older people get, or if you're ill, that's. And then when I got it, I got it bad. Yeah. I was very sick for a long time, but I'm healed now. I'm totally recovered. My immune system has come completely back, but it's made me think, God, life just can be taken just like that, or not even life, your health can be taken away straight away. So that's why I am just like so determined to push this and get the information out there while I'm living, or get something recorded out and about. And there's a lot of pressure with that, but I think if I hadn't got very ill with COVID, I would not be doing this. I'd still be plodding along with the Creative Mum. But yeah, getting sick like that really made me like go, well, what would make me happy? And sharing knowledge and experience, I really enjoy it. Or what knowledge and experience I do have, I really like. And I like learning as well. So yeah, just all of it summed up. But yeah, there's a lot there to take on because a lot has happened in my life. It's been an interesting ride for sure. It really has. But I think hopefully that reflects back to viewers, is that, you know, it's not easy street. It's not at all. You just got to keep going. If you're going through hell, keep going. But yeah, and AI, I just feel like AI and all this movement has really helped me get better as well, because it's given me something to focus on.
Right. Wow. What a powerful story. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah. Quite emotional because it really did feel like it was the end.
Wow. Well, I mean, despite that struggle, like it sounds like you're making the most of it. And that's
Yeah.
like kind of the best kind of outcome you could hope for, not only recovering, but kind of having this new dimension of purpose in life.
Yeah, massively. I do feel like that really, a lot of people say that that happened, and yeah, I was awake and I saw the tunnel vision come in, saw it go black, and they had to put adrenaline into me to get me back. And it's so vivid, but when you see that tunnel and everything go black, you think, it makes you rethink your life and what you're doing. And I thought, well, actually, now I feel like I've got something to do, and I have a mission to help others create workflows with, and it sounds crazy, with AI, and that's why I feel so committed to it, because I feel like there's a cause here, and I don't want to put any paywalls up. I don't do any of this for money ever. So if I show something or promote something, it's because I think it's good and it works. So
yeah, that's amazing, and it's just the beginning. It's only been a couple months so far.
I know it's crazy, and in those months it feels like a lifetime almost. And me and my brother, we have no sort of forecast of where we're going, because everything is just headed in so many directions. I don't think you can forecast where you're going, but we are consulting businesses as now, which is insane. Like I said before, we're linking up developers who have creative programs that could help studios and artists alike as well within their workflows, and cut out pain points and speed up creativity, rather than get stuck with the laborious work. So none of it is cutting jobs. All of it is just, essentially streamlining the pipeline, and encouraging creativity, and not stopping it. It's not, nobody's typing anything in to create a 3D character, not yet. Anyway, right. It's the boring processes that nobody wants to do. Is trying to eliminate those, which is more cost effective to do.
Yeah. And I guess as a last thing, so how should folks follow your journey and learn more about what you're up to, what Prompt Muse is up to?
Well, I'm absolutely everywhere. On YouTube, it's at Prompt Muse. If you have a look on YouTube, I've got a Twitter, which is Prompt Muse. Even got a TikTok, but I feel like I shouldn't be on there. I don't belong on there whatsoever. I'm on Reddit as well at Prompt Muse. You'll see me posting a lot in the Stable Diffusion and AI models section and things. So if anybody needs to contact me, and I'm sorry if I'm really bad at replying at the moment, because sometimes I just have to turn the emails off and get on with work. Got
videos to get out.
Yeah, I got videos to get out, but I do love reading the messages people send me, and that keeps me going, and in totally inspired by their stories and why they're using AI. I was quite insular before all this. I'm not very social at all. I don't tend to like going around people, but I find online it's different. You actually, when somebody writes you an email, they write it through their heart, if that makes sense. And you don't have to look at somebody, or they don't have to pretend to be something else. Whereas I think, in a virtual environment, you are more open to who you really are, if that makes any sense. And 3D avatars all play into that. And I don't like using the word metaverse, but I'm going to use it. But when the metaverse comes, I think people like me will socialize on there. It's not for everyone, and I know a lot of people dislike it and feel like it's actually not good for mankind, but there are people out there that actually is good for to talk to online. So I'm looking forward to that, and all this is flowing nicely into the metaverse. So avatar creation, that I'm looking get more into, looking at creating your own avatar in the metaverse and, creating clothes for it and stuff. That would be very cool. And that's where I think potentially all this is going. We've never created a successful metaverse yet that is enjoyable, but I think it will come one day. And all these 3D characters and all these creations, there will be a part to play in that environment at that time. So it's not just doing something for doing something. I think it will lead to there. And I don't know if your viewers understand or know of NVIDIA Omniverse.
Mm-hmm.
And if they have a look at that's all NVIDIA are really pushing the Omniverse that's a pipeline of how to get characters to lip sync with your voice and get that all into the meta. I hate using the term metaverse, but I hate it so much. It's like using the word AI all the time when it's not actually AI, but pushing that into a virtual environment as well. But like I say, it's not for everybody, and some people just go, "Oh, just go out, go outside."
Right.
But that's some people don't like that.
Yeah.
So I grew up, with the old ICQ and MSN chat and stuff. That's my way of socializing. And it's probably a bad thing actually, but yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, YouTube, Reddit, all these other places, and someday soon, metaverse, we'll find your metaverse avatar. Maybe you'll be doing tutorials in one of the, whichever metaverse actually becomes a mainstream thing. That maybe we have our round 2 interview in the metaverse when that comes.
I'll be a crypto queen then, maybe. I think like NFT and crypto, it's all early. It's all going to tie in. Everything's going to make sense one day. And we look at these things and say, oh, it's a bit scammy, or it doesn't make sense. Why do I want to buy an NFT when I could screenshot it? At the moment, maybe it doesn't make sense, but I think everything will align at some point to all work out to, be something good, hopefully. Maybe not now, but hopefully, I'm forever an optimist. But yeah, there will be negatives, of course. But yeah, as long as we keep learning how to stop it, if we need to stop it or unplug it, that's one thing.
Right.
I spoke to you before about, there are anti-AI artists or anti-AI people, and I get that, and I understand it's quite a scary thing to perceive, especially if you feel threatened by it. But I think burying our heads in the sand and ignoring it and not talking about it is worse, and I think that's the most dangerous part. I think learning it, how it works, and putting laws in place to stop people developing something that they shouldn't is essential. And we're now seeing in the art community lawsuits happen, rightly or wrongly. These lawsuits need to set a precedent for laws that are going to come in the future to control it. And so, although I understand people's concerns about AI, I think ignoring it and just banning it is not going to help. I think laws will help control, hopefully, it. But we spoke before this thing about, it only takes one person to be a bad apple in the lot to make something that shouldn't be there, or could potentially be dangerous. But you could say that about everything. It's here, and we've got to deal with it, and it's going to evolve quicker than we think it's going to evolve.
Yeah. And technology is always a double-edged sword. I guess what we can do is try and understand it, help each other better understand it, and how to use it in hopefully the right ways. So our guest today has been Amelia Player. Amelia, thanks for being part of the craft. And for all of you listening, watching. Thanks so much for listening and watching to the craft. For more information about this episode and other episodes, you can search the Craft Podcast by Michael Du and Daniel Tedesco on YouTube or anywhere you get your podcasts. See you next time, and until